All right, our next fireside chat actually is Paul Thompson is the VP of EMEA for Blis, and Ben Phillips, Global Head of Mobile for MediaCom. Take it away, gents.
Wow, thank you everyone for staying. I think we've got 15 minutes between us and drinks.
That's fine.
I'm Paul Thompson, this is Ben Phillips,
Hi.
one of the leaders in mobile. To give you a little bit of insight into who Blis is, in case you don't know who we are a location data company. We believe where you go defines who you are, and ultimately how you respond to advertising messages. If I took a straw poll of this audience, just 2 locations would define each of you as individuals. So your home and where you work, and then all the things you do in between, or don't do in between, are the data signals that you give off that we can collect and create into valuable audiences for marketing. And what we can do is overlay this onto the digital world. So I think generally as an industry, we're accepting that the click is a very one-sided metric. What we can now do is look at the effectiveness of your advertising by analyzing things that happen in the real world, beyond the click, beyond the impression, by looking at footfall. So real-world behaviors. Does advertising work? Now, an element of advertising is obviously creativity, and it's part and parcel of the packaging of data that we do at Blis. We also look at how creativity is influenced by both location and audience segments. So I'm very privileged to have Ben here to nice segue into creativity. So do you want to do a quick introduction to yourself, Ben?
Yes, my name is Ben Phillips. I'm the Global Head of Mobile at MediaCom. I've been doing pure mobile for 14 years of my life. So I've seen everything from push SMS messaging, across green screen handsets, all the way up to probably our latest division inside of MediaCom, which is our creative programmatic unit.
Okay.
And everything in between.
Everything in between,
yeah.
And that's a lot. Okay, so 12 months ago, I think you sat on this stage and you talked about mobile and you talked about data. So what's been the change in the last 12 months?
Yeah, I think mainly confidence, and it's everything from us as agencies, also with our brands. You know, we've had some fantastic advancements in how we're measuring mobile, how mobile has really kind of come up and above all other kind of digital media to really start to glue together a lot of the other channels or business units that we have. And we at MediaCom now, we kind of think of mobile as a behavior, not a business unit. I mean, it's kind of pervasive across every kind of element of our media campaigns that we run. So if we start to look at digital alone, it's around about 90% of our social impressions on Facebook are delivered on mobile, about 37% of all of our searches across mobile. So I'd say we're probably running about 90% of our digital campaigns now have mobile as part of that. So it's quite clear to see that mobile will inherit the earth.
Good. Okay, that's nice to know. You talked about measurability and insights. What are the sort of key insights that you're getting from your mobile campaigns or your mobile vendors? I mean, what's changed?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I've been kind of most excited about recently is how we're starting to use mobile data outside of just a display screen. So we kind of look at it as glass, but also, kind of stepping a little bit back and looking at how we're using mobile to influence TV and out-of-home buying decisions is a really good example. So when we can start to see consumer journeys, so not only where you are now, which was kind of very last year, right? Looking at kind of proximity ring fences, but looking back a little further to see where you have been, where you are at this moment in time, and it enables us to kind of predict a little bit further into the future about where you're going to be. So that helps us quite a lot as mobile as a planning tool for all other media.
Okay, and in terms of creative development and creative optimization, what are the key things that you've been learning over the last 12 months?
We've I'm probably one of the only people that kind of welcomed the whole kind of ad blocking discussion and also what's going on with brand safety at the moment, because mobile truly had the answers to these solutions quite some time ago. So ad blocking's kind of put us now around about 13% of smartphone penetration has now got an ad blocker on it. So that's really kind of enabled us as advertisers, publishers and brands to kind of look at the market to start to build better creative, I think also a lot of the technology advancements we have now, so we're in the programmatic stream here, right? So if I start to look at how much or how deep we can now target individuals, so I can tell you that the guy at the corner of that street has 2.4 children, he's driving a Volvo, he's thinking about now buying a holiday for the summer, and then what do? We deliver a banner ad to him. So all of that really smart thinking kind of falls down at the last mile, if you like. So the combination of very, very good data solutions, measurement, and creativity has to come together. So we've created what we call our programmatic creative unit inside of MediaCom, which kind of puts creative at the heart of all of this technology. But without that perfect creative execution, you're kind of wasting a lot of the expertise that you might have.
Okay, and how are you combining creativity and relevancy for something that at Blis we care about, which is location and location audiences?
Yeah, no, again, it's fantastic for us to have these real-world data feedbacks. So, great example, if I look at Sony Mobile as one of our clients. Now, we have a look at out-of-home installations. So we might have 6 sheets, particular locations. We then ring-fence those locations and have a look at the device IDs that have been exposed to that out-of-home placement. So what that then starts to enable us to do is to then go and have a look at that device ID later on in the evening. So when it's at a fixed IP or connected to Wi-Fi. So I know that we've got larger engagement pools there. You're more likely to be sat down and have the opportunity to then experience video production. So we're seeing around about 117% growth in video year on year at the moment. So knowing when it's appropriate to show that rich media engagement is the be-all and end-all for you to actually get your engagement rates through.
Okay, so you made an interesting point about mobile not just being about location, so being close to somewhere. Do you have any examples of some rich audiences that you've built on location that you couldn't have got anywhere else?
I think from the automotive campaigns that we've run previously, also with our kind of FMCG products as well. So where we have some retailers that maybe don't have their own retail stores, for example, we can kind of use your full data to then have a look at where they've engaged with an ad, which creative they've engaged with, and then how they've been driven into store. That's quite important for brands that don't have that kind of last mile activation or understanding. So we will use partners such as yourselves and IRI to get that purchase data out. But without that kind of clear understanding of how that consumer is engaged with that creative, it's very difficult for us to assign mobile as the value or where that's been inside that consumer journey to engage in.
Okay. And we saw a great piece of creative from Dan in the previous presentation, but what do you feel most illustrates where the market's going in terms of creative execution?
Again, I think video.
Yeah.
If I start to look at that, I mean, we talk a lot about viewability at the moment. I think what really kind of helps us to understand the kind of value of viewability or how consumers are engaging with that. So if we look outside the challenges that we've really been faced with over the past 6 months, right? So with Facebook not once, twice, 4 times being unable to accurately measure its own kind of viewability statistics, I think raising them up to about 90% is some of the figures we've seen. What that's kind of enabled us to do is to look at, well, if somebody's engaged with that video for a percentage of time, do they then go forward to purchase a product? So it may well be that if you're in a kind of intent mindset to go and purchase a product, the first 25% of that video is actually all you needed with a trigger to actually drive you into store. So again, I can see video as being one of the kind of the best ways of running creative. It's a lot more interactive nowadays as well. So I think that's kind of helped us push better mobile-first creative into the market.
Okay, so I mean, essentially what we're here to talk about is data and creativity. Do you think the ability of machines, and particularly the deployment of machine learning, will change the way that creativity is developed and deployed within the marketplace?
It impacts, it informs us. So if we're now able to, with kind of dynamic content optimization, kind of look at not just things like gender or location or weather, but we can go a lot deeper to actually understand at kind of day parting which creatives are relevant to which audience. And as much as we kind of spend a lot of time actually programming that in, and we've got great teams of people that actually put that together. I think machine learning is being able to demonstrate the effectiveness of that a lot better.
Okay, so if I get the privilege to come back in 12 months, what do you think you'll be talking about then? What do you think are the key things?
Probably not mobile. Again, it's kind of what we look at is it being a behaviour across all of our different teams inside of MediaCom. We have specialists now across the board. It's all across our digital specialists have gone through 36 points of certification to understand mobile. So that really means that, I probably won't be here. I'm kind of talking myself out of a job a little bit, I think.
Excellent. Now, location by its very nature has to be accurate. I have the advantage of working in a company that takes accuracy very seriously. What's your view on accuracy and location and the methodologies behind the collection of data that then is applied to the creative deployment of ads?
It's probably one of our biggest challenges at the moment. I mean, there's a reason why we have revolving doors at the front of all of our offices, because the amount of people that are coming in that do location is phenomenal. We kind of suffer from a little bit of kind of overselling, over-promising from some people, I would say. So we take a very kind of stringent line of auditing processes and partners that we work with. And that does change. We find that different partners might work through different campaigns, different brand verticals, also in different markets. But we're starting to see things like the Media Radiance Council, so the MRC taking a very clear interest in location and setting out some quite clear guidelines. So as much as we continue to vet that as part of the process, it's good to see that other third parties getting involved to kind of help that out and make that a bit easier for us.
Okay, perfect. So we've got a few minutes for questions from the audience as well, if there are any questions.
Hey guys, I just want to ask what you guys understand about your perspective on what creativity means, because from working with our clients, we're hearing them trying to become more consumer first, so it's not what they intend to say, it's how it's heard. When I hear about creativity, I hear about targeting. I hear it's creative, we're being creative as marketeers, but why is it more creative for the consumer experience? And I know one of the answers is you get products that are more relevant, but let's assume the non-targeted was relevant to me as well. I just want to know how it improves creativity, because I see it's a challenge and it comes with extra demands in the mobile space particularly.
Good question. I suppose from my personal side of the industry, and I started my career at BBH way back, just as they launched the Levi ad, where I think it was Nick Kamen took his pants off in the laundry and sold hundreds of thousands of pairs of Levi jeans. And actually, I'm assuming then there wasn't much data or insight into what made them do that ad, other than it was cool and the music was fantastic. So I sort of half agree that actually data isn't where you should start and finish in terms of developing creativity. From what I think we do, and I think I touched on it very briefly, is with location data specifically, you can see a lot about what people are doing, what consumers are doing, and more importantly, what they're not doing, and also what you can see them doing in the future using the rear view mirror of the data that we have. So that allows you to formulate strategies that are slightly different to the ones that you would in traditional media channels, if that makes sense. And then the creativity is literally down to the agency and the client figuring out, I think I've heard it a number of times, what the KPIs are for that particular campaign, and delivering creativity and a platform, a digital platform in our case, that will execute against that.
I think that if we'd have had that question a year ago, my immediate response would have been that we're still kind of throwing TVCs into mobile and expecting that creator to work on that device. So I think in terms of kind of data, location, etc., it's actually given us a lot more information now to take great creative and actually deliver it to the right people at the right time.
Hi, I just wanted to ask a question about creative agencies themselves and what kind of appetite you're seeing with them for understanding what data might mean to them or how they can use it. I mean, it's few examples of it, but I sense there's a bit of resistance there rather than, I know we're promoting from our side of things with sort of the media channels, but what are you seeing from their side?
I think, again, there's been so much progression over the past, look, mobile years, we measure like dog years, right? So it moves extremely rapidly. So sorry?
Is it finally video of mobile?
We're not allowed to say it. You have to put $1 in the swear jar if we say that aloud on stage. What we're kind of starting to see now is that we're able to help creatives build better. MediaCom, we're privileged enough, we have MediaCom Beyond Advertising, so we have our own creative studio in-house, so we don't tend to have that kind of disparate conversations. But we're starting to find a lot more now that the brands are requiring their creative agencies to build better mobile solutions. So it's no longer about that sugarcane field on fire, driving that car through at 100 miles an hour and the hooks at the 35-second part of that film. We've actually got, and this happened last week, where we're working with a brand and a creative directly on set that we're helping them with what production values, what assets they're actually creating at the time of filming, because they're considering the consumer engaging with this piece of content on a mobile device. So I think it's changing. Likewise, I think I think Sir Martin says it quite a lot, we're eating our own young at times, so you're starting to see creative agencies do media planning and media agencies doing creative. It's the way of the world, unfortunately, or fortunately.
Perfect. Ben, Paul, thank you very much. Round of applause.